Guess I'm still just figuring it out. You know, we have ups and downs, hard times, defining moments, trials and tribulations. You know, things with work have been kind of rough. It's kind of like part-time right now. Only thing I seem to be able to get right now is part-time. I don't even know how, you know. Just warehouse jobs not working out, so I don't know. Sold my cars last year, moved into my first place. It was beautiful. You know, things seem to be starting to work out, even through my, mental health, right? Which is very important. I would advise anybody to get, you know, the mental health support team that you need, because it is a beautiful thing. I've started to relieve my symptoms of schizophrenia almost to a point to where it's non-existent. So I feel so grateful, and it's like nothing's perfect. Going the way that God would want me to go, you know. But it's not easy in a world of, just chaos. Not sure if you guys know, still wars going on. So I know people are having it really hard all over the world. Things are starting to get better though. I remember 5 years ago when my symptoms started, it was the pandemic, and then here we are 5 years later. I'm starting to see real relief in my, my mental health journey. And it's so surprising to me that the people that are against it the most were some of my best friends, family. I mean, they're outright sitting here telling me how I feel. It's to that degree. And I'm like, I love them, I care. I'm just like, in what world do you sit here and start telling people how they feel? I love you guys, but it's ridiculous. And aside from that, I would go, any person sitting here battling, even things like depression, anxiety, I totally feel for you. I'm not sure if you guys know this, schizophrenia can also mimic and copy all sorts of conditions, bipolar, you know, it's not just auditory hallucinations. It's not just, you have disorganized thoughts. It can be, I would say quite a few different emotions and feelings. And I'm sure all of us, we're human. We feel, and just as simple as a healthy routine. Because I used to be 400 pounds. I'm sure a lot of you know that. And now I'm down to like 220, 225, roughly. So it's like you can create structure, but there can still be chaos. Say this too. Don't be so hasty to sit here and write off people that you never expect who will be there for you in your hard times, in the moments in your life to where they might be able to have some insight. They might be able to not have such a, what would I call, a bias. It's as simple as that. Right now, what I've been having to deal with, and I love and care about my family, beautiful people. At the end of the day though, they can be opinionated. They know that, and so I'm like, through all the highs and lows, I would say they've been there. So it's not resentment in my heart. It's not that you don't know my flaws and the good and the bad. I go, when I'm saying things as simple as, the biggest thing in my life that I need right now is not only structure, time, patience, And I say this with all the love that I can. If you can't respect that, I would say don't be afraid to distance for a while. Because it's been more like, for this 4th of July, we were all supposed to go to the beach, right? And last minute, they start going, oh, no, and I go, okay. But then I go, okay, what's really going on here? So I call them, right? They all pick up. They all have some response. They all have their reason. And, then it's back on. Then I head over, and then I show up, and then they're all gone. So I almost wasted my entire 4th of July. I ended up going up to a suite over at the Nines Hotel. Or not a suite, what was it? It was a rooftop, party event. And so I was kicking it with so many great people. This life will surprise you in ways that you don't know. And, the whole reasoning for me having to leave, where I'm currently staying, I'm not gonna lie, that is on me too. Because sometimes I do overdrink. Apparently, I ended up making some ramen noodles and then just passing out in the kitchen. So I get exhausted. I work out for sometimes 2, 4, 5 hours a day. No joke. If I was on testosterone, you guys could see it. You know what I mean? Or excuse me, if I was on steroids. Which right now, not only with my condition, I realize I do actually want to see the results of just, all natural. Everybody's got their own thing. I don't hate anybody. This goes out to the, bodybuilding community. I've never had that bias in my heart. You know what I mean? I always grew up watching WWE stars wanting to get super jacked, So, the thing about it is, to grow, sometimes you do have to sacrifice. And if I got to sacrifice a bit of, what I would call just unhealthy relationships right now, because, people can be disagreeable, just like they know I can be disagreeable. I can be, I do like to talk. I do like to discuss things. It's not all them, you know what I mean? It doesn't come from nowhere, right? Because people have their own feelings. They can get in their ways. Order. I never thought my life was gonna come to these things, but I don't think anybody really does. It's one of those things where you realize who's with you, who tried, and then maybe you're watching somebody go through their own things. Like these people right over here. So crazy. You're sitting here talking about it, looks like somebody's hitching somebody. Even my own friends and family, they're going through their own things. All I'm saying is prayer is not unwarranted, even if you don't believe in spirituality, right? You want to keep people in good faith, but realize that this life isn't always, what is the word? I never thought my life was going to come to these, dilemmas. It took 26 years roughly before I ever became homeless. I mean, when I was a kid, I was homeless for maybe a day or two before I went to Job Corps when I was younger, but that doesn't count. It was in between. It's so crazy, man. Job Corps is, they pulled the plug. It's crazy. Beautiful things, learned a lot. Not only of the heart, but, life. Wish nothing but the best for a lot of these people. I can't sit here and say enough. Sometimes I realize sometimes I just keep going. Some people want this to be short and sweet. It's not going to be. There's so many people in our lives that are there for a chapter. I love them. I care. If I got to rebuild from here on out, there's some people in my family that I love and care about. But if they're sitting here going, they're going to start telling me how to feel, right? I've been dealing with, psychosis, schizophrenia for going on almost 5 years now, if not more. And when I start saying stuff like how I feel, that been a weight that's been lifted, maybe not in entirety, right? But if it's so significant to where I go, I'm acting not only normal, I am, showing way less symptoms, way less, to a point to where I go, does it have to be an MD? Does it have to be said by a doctor? Which they are already hesitant on diagnosing people. They don't, I think only 1 or 2 doctors out of the 10 or 7 or 8 have actually even entertained the idea of trying to diagnose me. Because when you give somebody a diagnosis, that's like you saying, I'm declaring this person blind, right? You're declaring something with your degree, so to speak. So if you're wrong, say you're wrong about something, like you diagnose them for cancer and they don't have cancer, but they go through all the treatment, you can be held accountable. You know what I mean? And so it's like, it's one of those hard things to really describe to people, how many times I've entertained not only these thoughts, but I want to eventually get to the point where I'm helping other people. And that doesn't mean like I just get to walk away scot-free. I still have the memories, you know what I mean? I have the memories of being really deep in water kind of feelings, really not knowing how to describe things, having to recover even from medication, because that's something that they don't tell you. Recovering from medications can sometimes be worse than the symptoms. If it's not the right medication for you, always talk with your doctor. You know what I mean? It's that simple. It's really tough for me, man. It's a low blow, and it's the last thing I expected, not only from family. Thank God I really haven't heard it from friends, but then again, I haven't been too socially active. I mean, I've been going to parties. I've been sitting here running around, going to the bar, and, I've had a few bad nights, But all said and done, I would say 2025 is already headed in a direction that I can't just stop looking away from, how bright the future can be. It doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. Doesn't mean I'm never going to have a problem, right? Doesn't mean that there won't be that day in the future, just like right now, how I'm homeless. I've taken some time off work, meditated, prayer, talked with people, doctors, stuff like that. And heck, man, I've even shed off another 30 pounds or so. I even got down to like 207, but I wasn't entirely in love with the feeling, because I'm not sure if any of you guys tried to get shredded, right? My version of shredded's not going to be the same as your guys', right? I got like loose, like when I pull, I still got loose skin from being, like I used to be 400 pounds, right? But me getting to like around 215 feels pretty great. I feel like I can sprint, lift all day, I got to get to a healthy lean eventually is what I kind of want, the direction. But, I got all the way down to 207. I haven't been 207 since middle school, to put that in perspective. I mean, one time throughout high school, I got down to like 220 something, but just to put things in perspective. A beautiful feeling right now. I feel blessed, but also cursed, because in one hand, things are letting up. And the other, I'm still having to deal with things with family, which I just did not expect. Came out of left field. Love and care about them. But, we all go through things. We all go through things. I don't know what they're going through right now currently. And I can give them shit sometimes. I'm not going to lie. I'm not always the perfect brother. I don't know how to respond to every, situation. And if I'm being fair, sometimes I do act up, a bit brash. But I'm not going to lie. The repeated behavior of anytime I have a drink, I get a stern talking to. You know, I'm at that point to where I'm like, no, I love you guys, I care, but essentially, guys, I love you. Me and Bear still figuring things out. Gotta be patient.